welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined by Riley Fessler. How are you, Riley?
Excellent.
And Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
Fabulous. How are you?
I apologize to you guys. I've missed like the past week because of various meetings and holidays and traveling and stuff like that. Has anything been going on in the world that I missed?
No?
Nah, not really.
Yeah? Nah. You said we were getting some hate mail from some Trump supporters because why, Riley? It said you arrested women who were speaking out at school board meetings.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that you were active in that regard.
You know,
part of
I'm a
law
man of
enforcement.
I'm a man of many talents. I wear many hats.
Yeah.
One of them is the police officer's hat, as I arrest moms for
Yeah.
speaking out.
You know, Rosa Brooks, one of our originals, she was a police officer in Washington, D.C. for a while. I don't know if you've ever read her stuff about that, but it's fascinating. Fascinating stories. What have you been doing, Minute, to alienate Trump supporters?
I've been doing hard work to alienate Trump supporters. I've been posting on YouTube videos of our podcast, sifting through the comments as people fight online in our comment section about how Matt Gaetz is great and Trump's doing a great job.
Oh, Matt Gaetz. Yeah, well, you're from Florida.
Exactly.
I would assume Matt Gaetz was your responsibility.
I have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, you do have a lot to be proud of. Well, look, we don't want to offend any of you folks out there. We're just trying to tell the news as we see it. But if you find our coverage, offensive, one thing that you can do that I am told has a 100% success rate is just not fucking listen to us. Just turn it off. If it bugs you, listen to somebody else. Listen to Joe Rogan. Listen to something else. We try to tell things like we see them factually, and not to be super highly politicized, but instead to try to give our listeners our perspectives on the world. But it's not mandatory listening. You can go do something else, and I will miss you, but. We're just gonna go on, doing our thing here, and we're grateful for the audience that stays to enjoy it. Riley, why don't you show what we're about here by starting us off with a substantive story that you think our listeners ought to know about?
Tensions are rising in southern Lebanon as Israeli airstrikes and Hezbollah mortar attacks threaten to undermine a fragile ceasefire brokered by the U.S. and France. The strikes, which killed 10 people in Lebanon, mark Israel's largest offensive since the ceasefire was established to end 13 months of conflict. Under the ceasefire terms, both Hezbollah and Israeli forces are required to withdraw from the area between the Blue Line and the Litani River, with Lebanese army and UN peacekeepers set to deploy. Despite these developments, U.S. officials assert that the ceasefire is largely holding, though violations and accusations on both sides persist, fueling concerns of renewed hostilities.
I think one of the things that we sometimes lose sight of when we talk about these things is that there are real people involved. I sat down last week with Kim Gaddis, who's a regular on our shows, who lives in Lebanon and who has had to deal with the consequences of the war over the past year, and in particular over the past several months. And it was very eye opening. They would get alerts during the course of the war from the Israelis, from people in their neighborhood, saying they expect an attack here, they expect a bombing there. And there would literally be a satellite photo of a neighborhood. It would show a house and say that's where it's going to be. Get out of the way. And it's kind of terrifying and to observe it in real time. And so, it's not just some political arrangement, this ceasefire. It's about whether people can go back to having lives. An interesting consequence of all of this is that over the weekend, President Trump made a number of other announcements, one of which was that he was going to appoint Mossad Boulos as an international advisor focusing on the Middle East. This primarily got notice because he is he's the father-in-law of Tiffany Trump. He's also another billionaire joining the Trump team. But, unlike the other father-in-law he gave a job to over the weekend, Charles Kushner, former convicted felon who has no experience internationally, Boulos is actually from Lebanon, and he's a Lebanese Christian from a family that's been active there for a long time, actually once ran for the parliament there, and has some interesting ties in Lebanon. He's Lebanese Christian, but his ties are with folks that were sympathetic to Hezbollah, and that's could be a source of concern. It could be a source of new dialogue in this, and it's something to watch. It didn't really get a lot of coverage compared to some of the other stories out there. I would add that the situation in Syria is very fluid, and to the extent to which it becomes less settled and more violent, more confrontational, that too can affect Lebanon, can affect Israel, can affect Russia, can affect Iran, and it is a story to watch closely. And of course, Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has long-standing close ties with the Assad regime, which is being targeted by rebels in the region. It's such a complicated struggle that you never really, and while overthrowing Assad sounds like a good idea and freeing Syria sounds like a good idea, many of the groups that are involved in it are not the good guys. And it's very, very, very hard to understand where it'll come out, which is why the Israelis and many others in the region hold this view that, sort of better to have the devil than the one you don't. But there's a lot of fluidity, and the incoming administration is going to be very closely involved in all of it, whether it wants to be or not.
Representative Jamie Raskin has launched a campaign to challenge Representative Jerry Nadler for the position of House Judiciary Committee ranking member, fueled by concerns over the rising power of the MAGA movement and a desire for younger leadership. Raskin, currently ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, was swayed to run after lobbying from Democratic colleagues, emphasizing the need for stronger defense of democracy. Nadler, who's 77 years old, has argued he is still capable of leading and will continue to hold the Trump administration accountable. This race is part of a broader push by some House Democrats to replace older committee leaders, with several other leadership contests underway.
And it's a good thing. Nadler is a good man who's worked hard, has worked his whole life on behalf of his constituents, and he's played an important role. But he is getting a little older. He has been noted to sort of drift off to sleep on a couple of occasions during committee hearings. And Raskin is a real leader and has demonstrated himself on multiple occasions, including the January 6th investigations, to be a real champion of democracy. He's a constitutional scholar. He understands the history behind how we got to where we are. And he's an important voice. And I think a generational change is exactly what the Democrats need. With more younger, better, smarter, more energetic leaders are a good thing for the whole country, including, by the way, for the Trump administration. It's a good thing to have a vital dialogue on these issues. That's how our system was set up. Riley?
China has imposed a ban on the export of gallium, germanium, and antimony to the U.S., citing national security concerns and tightening restrictions on dual-use items with military and civilian applications. The new directive, effective immediately, also increases scrutiny on graphite exports and follows earlier U.S. measures targeting China's semiconductor industry. These minerals are critical for technologies like semiconductors, infrared equipment, and renewable energy. While China's share of global production for these materials is significant, accounting for nearly all refined gallium and the majority of refined germanium, the U.S. has not imported these materials from China this year.
Yeah, but look, China produces a lot of rare earth metals. We need the rare earth metals to produce a lot of kinds of things, and it's just a reminder. The United States, is not, an island unto itself in terms of global trade. It cannot do whatever it wants without consequences. If the United States chooses to impose tariffs on other governments, those governments will respond. It will make things, the tariffs themselves will not just be a cost that's passed along to consumers, but the trade disruptions, the supply chain disruptions that are associated with trade wars will make it harder to produce certain things, will make the ones that are produced more expensive. And we've seen this before. We saw this the last time that we went into a spiral like this during the first Trump administration. So this is prelude. One thing that I find kind of striking, I don't know if it's striking to you guys, but I consider me old-fashioned. Maybe I'm the old guard that we need to get rid of. But I thought we just had one president at a time in the United States. Trump has been like, well, okay, here's our trade policy, and we're going to do this, and I'm meeting with foreign leaders, and I don't know if you saw that Justin Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago. Did you see the stories about this yesterday, guys?
I heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, did you hear what he said to him?
I did not.
He said, well, look, if this trade conflict is too rough for you, a good option for you might be to become the 51st state. It was like, oh my God. But, you like that, Minna?
It's Greenland all over again.
Yeah, it is. Well, you get what you pay for here, folks. But having said that, I find it kind of interesting that we've sort of jumped ahead into Trump trade policy, Trump retaliate, all this kind of stuff. And Joe Biden's going to be president for another 6-7 weeks, but it's a preview for all of us. And it's a chance for everybody to get prepared for what's coming next. And I know that Riley is preparing for it because he's got a big gallium and antimony stash under his bed, which he will make available to the highest bidder. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a good investment. People said I was crazy, but look who's laughing now.
Look. Okay, what's next?
Become a member, and Riley will share with you.
Right? Yeah, right. We can become a member, and this week only, your bonus will be an envelope full of rare earth metals that you can use to produce your own chips. Riley, save us from this dead end. What is the next story?
I have the next story.
Oh, you do. Oh,
which is a federal appeals court ruled that Idaho can enforce its abortion trafficking law, which makes it a crime to harbor or transport a minor across state lines to obtain an abortion without parental consent. However, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals blocked part of the law that criminalizes recruiting minors to get an abortion, citing First Amendment protections for speech, including counseling and advocacy. The law, passed in 2023, aims to prevent minors from obtaining abortions in other states where it is legal, but a majority of the court ruled that the state's jurisdiction does not extend to abortions performed outside Ohio. The ruling is significant.
Idaho.
Oh, sorry.
Whenever you're got Riley here, you start thinking of Ohio. They've got their own legal problems, but this is very Idaho-esque law.
Yes, very. doesn't extend to abortions performed outside Idaho. The ruling is a significant victory for Idaho's Attorney General, who argued the law protects both minors and the unborn, while abortion rights groups are challenging the law's implications on free speech.
I mean, it's just deeply troubling where we are headed here, and one can only imagine what laws like this will look like in 4 years, with different kind of administration, and with, I don't know, 200 new judges appointed across the country in the course of the next 4 years, if not more. And I think that the battle over these issues is therefore likely only to intensify between blue states and red states. But the other thing, of course, you've got to keep an eye out for is that despite promises that it would not, the Trump and the Republicans would not back a national abortion ban, I still rate the odds pretty high that they do try for that. And of course, the consequences of that would be extremely grave, and there would be no safe harbors for women who seek actually to control their own bodies and their own destinies. Riley.
Well, ending on something of a feel-good story, a Delaware judge.
Since I know the story, I think that's very funny. Yeah, go on.
A Delaware judge has reaffirmed the previous ruling, rescinding a $50 billion stock options pay package awarded to Elon Musk by Tesla, now valued at $100 billion due to a surge in Tesla's stock price. The court ruled that the compensation plan approved in 2018 was flawed because Tesla's board lacked independence and shareholders were provided with misleading information. Although Tesla and Musk argued that a June 2024 shareholder vote ratified the package, the judge rejected the argument, citing procedural and informational flaws. Tesla plans to appeal, while its board may explore crafting a new compensation package under Texas jurisdiction, where the company is now registered.
Yeah, it's I feel bad because we have this very little company, and neither one of you is getting probably any bonus this year because we don't give out bonuses in our tiny little company, much less $100 billion bonus for the great job he's doing running Tesla. But that judge better watch out, because Elon is the shadow president of the United States and has a lot of influence. And I think, one of the things that we've got to watch with a lot of concern and attentiveness is how the incoming administration addresses some of the specific business interests of its members, including notably Musk, who, despite his railing against government inefficiency, has companies that hugely depend on the government for revenue, for subsidies, and so forth, like SpaceX, like Tesla. And of course, with each new billionaire that's added to the Trump cabinet, you have people with vast economic interests that almost inevitably will intersect with their government roles and or that of their colleagues, and they will have fewer constraints than we've ever seen in the past, because that just doesn't seem to be the style of this incoming administration. That's where we are on the third morning of December in 2024. And, we will keep following these things each and every day. I'm back here now with these travels behind me. So I look forward to joining you. And each morning, Minna, you and Riley can share with us, the best feedback we're getting from our listeners, because I think they'll find that interesting. And much of it's very good, by the way. We just, naturally we get stuck on the ones where people, say we're being unfair to the president, incoming president. Uh, by the way, I get if I ever put out a blue sky, whatever it's called, a skeet, what do you call those? Ever post and I refer to Trump as the president, I immediately get hundreds of people going, he's not the president yet. And I say, that's what you say. It sure seems to be that way. I do commend you, however, in not bringing up the story of Hunter Biden and the pardon again today, as the media seems obsessed with this story, even though it is completely trivial. I have a view on it, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to take up your time by sharing my view.
I kind of want to know now. You can't.
I kind of want to
like
know
that.
too, but I don't want to push.
No, it's okay. No, I think it's trivial compared to all the other stories, just as I've always thought the Hunter Biden case was kind of trivial compared to all the other stories. And certainly Biden is within his rights to pardon anybody he wants to do. The fact that he said for many months that he would not do this makes it a little awkward. But it's one of those subjects that I don't bring up also on social media, because there is an army of people who go, how dare you criticize St. Joe for doing anything? But the reality is it's not really a good look, unless what he does is he pardons a lot of people that he thinks that will be targeted by Trump, and not just his son. And this is a policy decision because he believes the incoming administration is going to be focused on retribution. Now, that would be a good thing to do. There's no sign he's actually going to do it. But we can live and hope as we watch over these next few weeks. Anyway, we'll be back here tomorrow, and all of our other podcasts will be coming as they always are. And, you should join us at the DSR Network, or you can go follow me at the Need to Know Substack, which has been doing very well. And I'm found over at Blue Sky, and I know our Fezzi, Riley, is over at Blue Sky too. Are you enjoying your Blue Sky experience, Riley?
Yeah, I've just dipped my toes into the Blue Sky experience, but I'm trying to figure out how it works.
Min, are you over there in Blue Sky land?
I'm not, because the format is just really not for me, but I do run the Deep State Radio Blue
Social
Sky
media.
account, and so you can follow that account and know that I'm pulling the strings.
Just wait a second. The format is not for you. The format is exactly what Twitter was.
Yeah, and Twitter wasn't for me. I didn't use that either.
Because you were busy on your Chinese WeChat account?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. No, I find Blue Sky is really good. And, I find that discourse is pretty good. The thing that I find useful, Riley, is that they've got all these so-called starter packs. And so we have Still Consciousness, a show on AI. And so I picked, half a dozen AI starter packs, which each have 20 or 30 people you can follow just at one click of the button. And so all of a sudden you can get a good flow of experts on AI, and you can do that on all sorts of other issues. So very, very quickly, you're able to build up the kind of timeline that's useful as an information source. That's why I showed up at Twitter in the first place, was that it was, when things were happening, you wanted to see what experts and others were saying about it. And of course, that got drowned out by all the nonsense. But I'm finding Blue Sky is really good for that. Maybe Min will come around to this, or maybe I'm just, an old, and, Minna's where do you spend your time, Minna, socially on social networks?
I like Instagram. I like TikTok. I think I like things that have the video, audio.
Celebrity videos and pet videos.
I like celebrity videos, pet videos.
Yeah, no, me too. I spend a lot of time on Instagram and TikTok. I used not to. I used to go to bed at night and I would watch like Law and Order or something before we went to sleep. And now I go to bed at night and I just spend 20 minutes on Instagram or TikTok because it's like it's well programmed. Particularly my TikTok, there's a bunch of political stuff in there, but there's music and there's pet videos and strange animal friendships and I used to be a pilot, and so I like watching videos about airplanes, and there's a bunch of those, and I guess you just get a mix.
So you are Gen Z after all.
That's right, Minna. And everybody damn well ought to realize that. Gen Z is just an attitude. It's not an age.
It's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind, and I'm as immature as anybody. As both of you can attest. Anyway, Riley is definitely not Gen Z. I mean, he's supposedly Gen Z, but Riley is like a boomer. He's got such boom. Look, Riley.
Damn.
I'd ask you what your social media preference was, but it's your crockpot. You spend a lot of time
slaving away over my crockpot.
Yeah, you love your crockpot. It's like the center of your world.
It is. My life orbits around my crockpot and the delicious meals I can create from it.
Yeah, with the wonderful taste enhancing qualities of slow cooking. Well, maybe Riley will have his own crockpot related podcast here sometime. But for now, each and every day, you'll get more of us talking about the news. So join us tomorrow. Join us every day and join all our other pods. Until then, bye-bye.